Hello everyone and welcome back to the Foreplay channel. I'm Bella.
I'm Jace.
Today's video is all about Temptation Cruise versus Temptation Resort. We always get questions about which one would be better for you, and we're going to be talking about the differences between both because they're both very fun but very, very different. If our content helps you out at all and you plan on going to Temptation Cruise or Temptation Resort sometime in the future, we would greatly appreciate if you would use our links to book your vacation right here. You can go to foreplay.com/travel for more information about all the different types of resorts and cruises that there are, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps us out a ton and we would greatly appreciate.
So if you do book the cruise specifically, we do go on all of those, and so for all of those we do a few little extra activities. We do a group dinner, we do a group meet and greet so everyone kind of get to know everybody. We also have a group online so you can kind of get to know people before you actually go on the trip, and so there's a few extra little things like that we do. We also give out some little gifts and stuff that are personalized, and so if you guys are going on the cruise and you book through us, or if you're going really to the resort at all, if you book through our links, it just helps us support us and be able to continue to make content like this, so we really appreciate it if you consider it. And we also want to say that we are going to try to compare these, and it's not going to be the most extreme deep dive into both. We do have extreme deep dives into the cruises and the resort, and so we'll have those videos linked below. So after you finish this one, if you want to get even more details about maybe some of the night parties or more details about this, make sure to go watch those specific videos because that will help you learn even more. So the first thing we want to announce that we're really excited about that has recently kind of happened is Temptation Cruise has always just been February, and starting in 2025 it is going to be in February and in November. So there's gonna be two different sailings, which can help a lot of people out because I know everything, sometimes people can only go during certain times of the year. So we wanna say that first, so if you are not aware, so we will be on that one as well. So there's gonna be a February and a November sailing now. And so yes, we have not been on that one, but we have talked to them and it should have a very similar feel to the February one. And so we're really looking forward to the fact that there's gonna be two Temptation Cruises every single year.
First, we're going to talk about the demographic. On the cruise, it's more about 40 to 50 with a skew on each side. You'll see younger people as well, and you'll see people who are older as well. And then at the resort, it's a little bit more like 35 to 45. So it does skew a little bit younger at the resort.
Temptation as a whole is not technically branded as a swinger resort or a swinger cruise. It is more an adult spring break. One thing we have noticed though is from the cruises, we feel like there is a larger population of swingers or people in the lifestyle on these cruises, where the resort seems to be more of a mix. While yes, on the resort there is a lot of people who are swingers, we've also noticed a lot of people that are just going there for an adult friendly vacation. We met people when we were there last time that said they looked up kid-free resort and that's where they ended up. We also saw a lot of bachelor, bachelorette type groups there, and so you will notice that there's a lot more singles at the resort, and there's also just a lot more people that are not in the lifestyle at all. They just want an adult friendly vacation, whereas the cruise, this happens too, but a lot of the people that we feel like we do interact with on the cruise are in the swinging lifestyle, or at least are aware of the swinging lifestyle and are somewhat, maybe involved in some sort of aspect. The
cruise definitely feels more like a lot of couples, where the resort is, again, like he said, more of a mix. You're not going to see bachelor, bachelorette parties on the cruise. The cruise, there's fewer singles, like you won't see that many singles, but at the resort you'll see that there's quite a few. However, if you are going to Temptation Resort when there is a lifestyle takeover, there are some that are more geared towards people in the lifestyle. Those ones will be all people who are in the lifestyle, and then singles wouldn't be allowed in at that time since they are taking over the entire resort.
So length. When it comes to the cruises are 5 nights. It's pretty set and standard. That's one good thing about the resorts. If you like to maybe go for a little weekend, you can go for 2 or 3 days. Now these places do normally have a minimum of 2-night stay. So usually it's at least 2 nights, but if you wanted to be there for a week or 2 weeks, I guess however long you wanted to be there, you can be there that long. And so that's a good thing to note. One thing that we take into consideration with this is when you go on a cruise, you get on with everybody at the same time. You get off with everybody at the same time. And so you have a chance to make these connections, and you know people are gonna be there for that entire duration. Whereas at the resort, you may meet someone you really love the first night you get there, and they're going home the next day. So you're gonna see more of a turnover at the resorts because people are constantly coming in and out. So that's something else to take into consideration, which one of those kind of groupings and meeting people works better for you. And the weekends are definitely going to be the busiest at the resort, so especially Friday, Saturday are going to be the busiest days of the week.
Moving on to the size, Temptation Resort is much smaller than the cruise. So there's about 430 rooms at the resort, and not all of those are couple rooms. So you could say about 800 or so people, 850 people, whereas on the cruise, it can be anywhere from about 2,500 people up to about 3,000 people, maybe 3,500, and that's just going to depend on whichever ship they are using to sail that specific cruise. So if you're looking for more people, more variety, the cruise is definitely a better option.
But it is good to note that you said, yes, it's 800 people at the resort, but since you have turnover, you are gonna meet more people, but there is a larger population of people on the cruises. So we are now going to talk about how it's organized. One of the biggest things that is a distinct factor between these two is Temptation Resort does not have playrooms. If you're wanting to do, spicy group activities, that is going to be in somebody's room, and that's really the only option for that. As far as the cruise goes, they do have playrooms aboard. And so if you're looking more for a place that has playrooms, Temptation Cruise is definitely going to be a better option. So the resort has a huge pool. I mean, it is massive, and that is generally where people are hanging out. They have a party pool, which is normally where they're doing all the parties. They have the most loud kind of music there. At Temptation Resort, they also have a quiet pool. That is where people kind of go if you want to be a little bit more relaxed. It's just a little walkover. It's not far at all, but they kind of have both of those options. The cruises, generally, because it depends on what boat it's on, has a couple main pools, and there's normally one main pool party area, and then there's some other hot tubs and things spread around that. And then they also have a solarium generally. The solarium is the place where normally people will go to be a little bit more quiet. It's not as loud, generally no music in there. So they both offer those things. And then I know I mentioned hot tubs a little bit. The cruise has hot tubs on the pool deck, kind of by the party, as well as in the solarium. So you kind of have hot tubs in both areas. And then the resort has some hot tubs kind of above the pools. And then there's also a hot tub that's at one of the higher levels that, depending on what kind of ticket you have and what kind of room you're in, you're able to go up to that bigger hot tub. They're both pretty similar with the party type feel. They both have main parties at the nighttime, and they have kind of pool parties during the daytime. We'll get a little bit more into details about the parties later, but it's also good to note that the resort is on the beach, so you're right there. You can just walk right off the resort and you're on a really nice beach, whereas the cruise, you're more going, you're stopping at different ports, so you're seeing more different places, but it's not necessarily always just on an exact beach. So as far as areas to hang out during the day, it's gonna kind of vary obviously between both. The resort, I would say, has less areas to hang out, but still has several areas. People are gonna hang out at the pool, you can go to all the restaurants, you have the lobby, you have the hot tubs, and you have, little coffee bar type thing, the normal bars. So there is definitely areas to hang out. The cruise is just a larger space, so there is going to be more areas to go around and kind of hang out during the daytime, but they both have plenty of options. So if you're wanting to hang out, just have a nice time in the day, and you don't want a party, you definitely have options.
This question is asked a ton, and it's about the clothing optional aspect of each one. The resort is topless optional, as well as the cruise. However, on the cruise, in the solarium areas, they do have places where you can be completely nude, and of course the cruise also has the playrooms where you could be nude in the playrooms, and the resort does not have that. So you do have more options for that clothing optional aspect on the cruise versus the resort. And you can only be topless optional at the pools, at the hot tubs, on the deck on the cruise. So it's not like you're walking throughout the hotel or throughout the entire cruise and a ton of people are topless. There are areas where you can be topless, and all the other areas you are not allowed to be topless or nude. Both the cruise and the resort do have different theme nights every single night. The one thing is, at the resort, it's going to be the same theme nights every day of the week per week, if that makes sense. So usually throughout the entire year, those themes are going to stay the same, which makes sense because there's people coming in and going out throughout the entire year. Versus the cruise, since it only sails twice a year, they're able to be a little bit more creative with the themes in that way, and so you have a bit more specific themes on the cruise. More people are on theme and dress up on theme more so on the cruise than they do at the resort.
So next we're gonna go into food. They are very different when it comes to food. Now, the one thing that definitely is similar, there is a buffet at both of these types of things. They generally have a late night buffet for both, and there's a daytime, there's a breakfast buffet. So if you're wanting buffets, you're definitely gonna be able to get it. I feel like at Temptation, they do a little bit more themed with their buffets, and so you do have your normal buffet every single day that has your standard items, but they also kind of have a theme, whereas the cruises generally just have a large buffet with a large array of food every single day. So the food is included at both of these because they are all inclusive. But one thing to note is that on the cruises, you only have one main dining room generally that is included in the price of your ticket. Whereas at the resort, there is a lot of different restaurants that you can go to. On the cruise, you go to your sit-down dining room that's included. It's more elevated type food. It's not the most amazing food in the world, but we always really enjoy it. It's really a fun time to go there. But at the resorts, they have a lot of really fun options. So they have, you know, an Asian type restaurant. They have a steak restaurant that has a show. They have multiple different restaurants that are all included. So if you're there for 3 or 4 days, every single night you could go to a different restaurant, which we always feel like is really fun.
The cruise also has a lot of different restaurants too, but they do just cost an additional extra charge. And also at the resort, since you're able to leave the resort, you can go experience more local or cultural food as well, versus on the cruise, you have to wait until you go to a port day so you can go experience that. The drink package is included at both. They are all inclusive. You do have to pay extra for top shelf alcohol. On the cruise, you'll have a specific amount that you can get a drink up to, and then anything on top of that, you just pay the extra, and then same thing at the resort. When it comes to the quality of the cruise versus resort food, it can go either way. I personally like the cruise food more. I think that there's more options. I think that overall it tastes better, and we'll go into more of this later of how like the accommodations are, but since it's a cruise ship, it just feels more elevated, I guess you could say. I feel like, and again, it depends on the different cruise ships, but I also am a cruise person, so I mean, so are you, but when it comes to the food,
I don't know if I necessarily agree. Like I love both of them. That's why it's so hard. It is very split. I like how the resorts have the different restaurants that are included, and those you can go to get sushi one night, and then the next night, you know, you can go to the seafood restaurant, the steak restaurant. And so I like that those are all included. The food, it just depends on the day. Sometimes I feel like the resort food tastes better to me. Sometimes I feel like the cruise food feels better to me. But overall, I think they're really great options. I think you'll be happy at both, but it is, you know, person to person for sure. So accommodation wise, they're both nice accommodations. I personally am a bigger fan of the cruises. I feel like because a lot of the cruise ships are newer, I think that they're just a little bit nicer overall. Like the last 5 years, the cruise has been on an amazing celebrity ship. It's very upgraded. I like the style. It had more of a classic, nicer, sleek look to me, where the resort has more of, I like a fun and funky feel, if you want to call it that. It's very bright colors, which is nice, but I personally think overall the cruises are generally a little bit nicer in my opinion.
And I definitely agree with that. The cruise feels a little bit more elevated versus Temptation. Resort feels just a little bit more fun and I guess more fresh, you could say, in a way, because of all the bright colors, a lot more spring break, even though both of them are kind of geared towards an adult spring break. When it comes to the rooms, the cruise ship definitely is a lot smaller because you're obviously on a cruise in the middle of the ocean, you know? So the rooms at the resort, there's just more space. However, I feel more comfortable in the cruise ship rooms. It's on the cruise ship, since it's not like outside, it just feels a bit more sleek in there, if that makes sense. Like at the resort, because it is like in a tropical area and it's like on land the entire time, like sometimes you'll get a little friend in the room, like a
lizard.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying that it's dirty or anything like that. They're just very different. And of course, it depends on what type of room you get. If you're, the more you pay, the nicer room you're going to get. If you get a suite on the cruise or you get a suite at the resort, they're both going to be nicer than getting an interior room on the ship or like a garden view room at the resort.
And staff-wise, they're absolutely amazing at both. They both go above and beyond. You're gonna see the playmakers, and we'll talk more about playmakers later, but you'll see them at the resort. Some of those same playmakers will be on the cruise, so you'll have that everywhere. One question we do get asked a lot is the staff on the cruise. So the staff on the cruise is obviously more people. Whatever cruise ship line that cruise is on, you will have those workers on that ship, but those workers know what type of cruise it is. They have the option of opting out. Also, they are just doing their normal jobs there. They are not the ones monitoring the playrooms. They're not going in and doing things for the actual cruise takeover. They're just doing their normal jobs at the cruise. So it's just good to know those people do have that option, and people always ask that question.
The people who are in charge of turning over the playrooms or hosting the seminars, things like that, those are people who Temptation specifically has as staff. So they are completely different types of staff. Versus at the resort, they're all like the same staff, but they're both amazing.
So next we're talking about activities, and I want to start with saying the playmakers. The playmakers are absolutely amazing at both of these places. We feel like the cruise is going to vary a little bit just because they have them do different things every year, it feels like to us. Sometimes I feel like they're super involved with dancing, getting people to get dancing. Sometimes they're running all the games. Sometimes they do a combination of both. Like, I feel like it's always a little bit different, but regardless, they're always amazing. They're always leading things, always getting people involved. And the same thing goes for the resort. They always are involved. They're always getting people up, getting people excited, getting people dancing. They're so friendly. And so the Playmakers are a huge thing at Temptation, and I'm so thankful for them because I really think they help elevate the party, help elevate everybody's just vibe and how everyone's feeling. So could not say enough great things about the Playmakers of both. So another comparison we can draw is excursions compared to having the beach. So at the resort, you have the beach. You can go out there. They have some little activities that you can do. You also could take an excursion out of the resort that's not included, but you could go do anything else in Mexico for a day type trip if you want to do that. Whereas the cruises, they do have excursions. Most of these excursions are just going to be what a normal excursion would be on a ship. Maybe that's zip lining or swimming with dolphins or something like that. But they do generally have one excursion that is adult only type thing. It's a nude option type excursion, and so that's good to note. That's something you're looking for. Another thing that is not actually with Temptation but is really a huge part of Temptation is the Boobs Cruise, which is a clothing optional excursion that a different company puts on, but a ton of people from Temptation Resort will go on that the days that it runs. It doesn't run every single day of the week, so that's something else. It's kind of an excursion that you can do at the resort that's not technically part of the resort but is a huge part of the resort culture. So the night parties, they feel pretty similar to me, honestly. It's a bunch of people dancing. You're gonna have a lot of really great music, a lot of high energy, a lot of just people having a really great time. We will say we feel like the cruise feels like more of a lifestyle party. There's more people dressed up on theme and more people are lifestyle, so you see a lot more couples dancing together. You see more things like that. We're at the resort, the party has that same type of feel, but just because the demographic's different, you have so many bachelorette parties, bachelor parties, singles, and then couples that maybe aren't in the lifestyle. It just feels like a different atmosphere, not in a bad way. It just feels less lifestyle to us. We also feel like a lot more people dance on the cruise, and it even kind of goes later, it feels like to us, because after the main party is over on the cruise, people normally go to a different section of the ship to dance, and that party goes on longer, and lots of time after that closes, people will go to the solarium, where we feel like at the resort, people kind of party in that one area, and then once it kind of dies off, it's kind of, that's the party's over for the night. So it does feel like a more lengthy type party and more of a diverse party whenever you're partying on the cruise.
Though it could be different depending on if you go to the resort during a takeover. If you go to a resort during a takeover, like a lifestyle takeover, it's going to be a completely different experience. So if you're wanting that kind of vibe and not go on a ship, that's probably more up your alley. The cruise also has activities in the way of there are seminars. So you can go in and you can learn about various different things. Sometimes there's things about like rope tying, sometimes there's things about being in the lifestyle, sometimes there's just things about helping your relationship, and they don't have any kind of seminars or classes like that at the resort. The cruise also has different meetups as well that you can go to, and the resort doesn't have that. When it comes to the shows, they're quite different. The resort has that one restaurant that does have a show that goes with it, which is really cool actually, and then they have a show every night before the dance party. Yeah. So it's kind of whatever gets it started. Like the show is what gets the dance party started. They'll finish up the show and then they'll open up the dance floor, and then the Playmakers will get you up and dancing, and it's pretty fun. The show is also a themed show depending on what the theme of that night is. So if it's like a jungle theme for the night, it's going to be a jungle theme for the show, and it's very cool. I mean, it's very like acrobatic. They'll like climb up on the stages, and they have that. It's really cool. On the cruise, they have a different types of shows. So there'll be a comedian one night. They have an activity show where it's more audience participation, and the cruise director and the Playmakers are on the stage. And if you're used to like the Quest game show, which is like the adult game show on vanilla cruises, it's like that, but obviously a lot spicier because of the type of cruise that it is. So that one's really, really fun. It's personally one of our favorite activities or shows of the cruise itself. They also have one big show as well, and in the past years it's been erotic, and erotic is a gorgeous burlesque kind of mixed with Cirque du Soleil type show. They have acrobatics and burlesque, and it's really, really, really incredible. So we do think the shows overall are better on the cruise. In addition, on the cruise they also have some nights where they do the vanilla cruise shows, and I think that one kind of gets people off guard because they're expecting more of an adult show and it ends up just being like a very vanilla show. It's usually like an 80s kind of thing, kind of like Broadway, but not very Broadway-y, if that makes sense. So they don't do that at the resort.
Music-wise, I'm gonna say they're pretty similar. They have really great music at both. I have no complaints. I feel like in the past, the cruise did way more EDM and we never were a huge fan of that. We like to mix, and I feel like now it's definitely more of a mix, and so they both have a very similar feel to me now. I'm happy with the music on both, and so no complaints there.
So in conclusion, they are both amazing places to have your vacation. It just depends on what you're wanting. We personally like the cruises more just because we like that there's more people on there, and since you're going from place to place, you get to visit more places.
We also like the fact that it feels more like a lifestyle atmosphere. As people who are in the swinging lifestyle, we like being around even more people like that, and so there's no problem with the people at the resort. They're all great people, but we like more of that swinging atmosphere than, you know, when there's gonna be bachelorette parties and things like that. So that's another reason I feel like we like the cruise even more personally.
The one thing that's good about the resort though is that if you don't want to spend a whole 5 nights there and then have to fly to Florida and stay a day before and after to make sure you get on the ship, you have a lot more flexibility with the resort. Some people try the resort out first just to see how they like the environment, which definitely makes sense.
But it also is good to note that we have so many friends who like Temptation Resort that are swingers, and they like it more than they like Temptation Cruise. And so it really is so person to person that we would highly recommend, if you have the opportunity, go on one of the cruises, go to the resorts and see which one you like more, because they really are both such amazing options. I have no, complaints about either one. I'm super happy either time we're either one. I said we're just bigger cruise people, and some of the other factors I feel like is, what leads us to liking the cruises a little bit more overall.
So hopefully this helps you kind of decide which one is better for you, if you want to try the resort or try the cruise or try both. And again, if this information or our content helps you out at all, if you do plan on going on a future resort or cruise, we would greatly appreciate if you consider using our links to book your cruise. Again, it's completely free to you, but helps us out a ton, helps support the channel. And if you want more in-depth reviews and information about both the cruise and the resort, we will have all of that information in different content below, where we have gone and done a deep dive into both of them.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. Make sure to leave a like down below. Comment if you guys have any questions or anything that maybe we missed that you think would help people, and make sure to subscribe so you never see post a video, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.